Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Sean Lang. Now, I've spent the last several years building and operating a digital agency that's grown past 50 people. And of course, that's shaped how I think about the problems, the decisions that really matter when things get complex. And before we dive in with our guest here, just a reminder, we've got a free community, a growing community. It's got tons of helpful agency resources, templates, AI tools, things to sort of help you rein in and manage the chaos so that you can scale. That's at agencyuplift.co/group. Enough about that. Eli, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Dude, Sean, I'm excited to be here with you. I always enjoy our conversations.
Absolutely. Me too, man. Me too. So Eli was on once before. We went through his harrowing agency journey. I think it's a really, really interesting one. He left nothing unsaid. And so if you guys want to hear about some of the real trials and tribulations that you can go through as an agency owner and then come out on top, definitely go back to his episode. I don't remember the number because we're past 100 and my memory just doesn't hold that much anymore. But you search him up. His first name has 3 letters, Eli. Don't be lazy. Go look it up and listen to that episode. But so he had a crazy agency journey, and then he took a lot of those learnings through multiple agencies that he scaled, and he started Profit Labs. Now, Eli, why don't you give us a quick rundown again on what Profit Labs is, and then I'd love to hear about some of the things that you have now learned running Profit Labs for multiple agencies.
Yeah, for sure, Sean. So real high level, Profit Labs, you can think of it as a fractional finance department for agency owners. Usually this becomes a pain point when an agency is somewhere north of 1.5 million in revenue, somewhere between 1.5 and call it 15 million is our sweet spot as far as revenue is concerned. And the pain points that they experience is like they don't yet have a CFO. They maybe don't really even need a CFO, but they do need some financial leadership on the team. They don't necessarily have the financial visibility that they want, and they kind of feel like they're flying blind. And maybe they've worked with a freelance bookkeeper or somebody who's just kept the lights on so that they can file taxes, but they don't really understand like profitability by client or any of these other things that it turns out are really important to know as you're building a real business and beginning to hit some scale. So we give them that for less than the price of a full-time employee is our whole shtick. I've been doing it now for about a year and a half. And man, we've learned some things and we've seen some things, some assumptions that were validated, some assumptions that were totally proved to be false. And I'm happy to share whatever with you. So ask away.
So how long has Profit Labs been around for now?
About a year and a half.
About a year and a half. Man, time flies. I remember when you first launched that. So, what assumptions did you have going into it? And I'm sure that a lot of them were correct, and I bet that also a lot of them were incorrect. But let's start with the correct ones. What did you assume would be the case that was?
Yeah. So I mean, the correct ones, high level, were like as soon as a business gets over 2 million, for sure, they absolutely need someone to own these functions. And most of them don't have it all in one place. Most of them have it piecemealed out. And so they're working with a bookkeeper somewhere. They're, maybe have a fractional CFO who moonlights every now and then. And then they have a part-time admin or maybe their EA who's handling the back office, like accounts receivable, accounts payable. And it ends up becoming this game of telephone. And so we really validated this pain point in businesses north of 2 million where they hadn't yet consolidated, because it's kind of this chicken or egg. Like, we don't want to build out an in-house finance team. That sounds expensive and it's a little bit of overkill at this stage. But also having these disparate freelancers isn't really serving us, and it's causing a lot more mental overhead for the founders or owners, where they end up being the ones juggling and kind of playing the game of telephone between these parties to get clean information and get the insights that they're after. So I think that was at a high level the piece that's remained true and was proven out. My assumption that was totally not correct was that even earlier stage companies, like sub $1 million, that this would be something that they'd be interested in setting up foundationally and like starting with a good foundation, just moving forward from that place. And we learned 2 things. One, I think, especially like if you think about if I were to generalize the profile of an agency owner, I've met a lot of agency owners at this point, and I am myself one. So like I think we generally identify as people who maybe have gone an alternative path in life. Like we're kind of bucking the trend. We're maybe the misfits is like too far to go with it, but like somewhere in between, not a corporate person and misfits
Yep.
lies the typical agency owner. And so the idea of being told like, hey, you should follow these best practices and like get your financial house in order before it becomes a problem. I think most founders, when they haven't yet run a business to that size before, they're like, nah, dude, I've got this. Like, we're good. Like, I don't need that. Yeah, sure. Like, you're telling me it's going to be a pain point because you're trying to sell me something. And I had enough of those conversations where I was just like, man, this is hilarious, but also it's not my battle. Like, I don't need to fight this battle. So we end up just kind of self-selecting our way a little bit more up market, which, 2 million in revenue or a million and a half in revenue isn't that far up market, but
No,
enough.
but the pond something gets a lot smaller at that size.
It really does. Yeah. And it's amazing to see also how many businesses are kind of like fighting to get over that 1.5. I feel like 1.5 million top
Yeah.
line is a really magical place where people either push through and like get to the other side and it becomes a very different type of business at that point. Or starts to become a very different type of business, or they're just like, nah, this is more of a lifestyle thing, and I don't want to fight that fight. I'm just going to stay in my happy place. Um, yeah. What do
Yeah,
you
that's
see? I mean, you talk to a ton of agencies as well.
oh man, I mean, I talk to a ton of agencies, I coach a bunch of agencies, and one thing that I've noticed, and this was also me to a T. So I feel like I can be you know, harsh but kind to agency owners because I've done more stupid shit than most of them have. So I can say what I want. Um, I avoided the financial piece for so long. I didn't avoid it, but I kept my financial understanding and sophistication so base level because I didn't want to have to deal with it. And I told myself that that's a later problem. When we're bigger, that will be a problem. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be bigger for it to be a problem. Like you just have to be around for a couple of years and be doing a bad job at it before the problem is really, really big, no matter what. But one thing that I've noticed with agency owners, and again, that was me that I was calling it out as well, is there's generally a pretty strong uh, I don't know if tension's the right word or hesitation or pushback to even actually take time out of the hustle and bustle of the day to day to actually try to understand the numbers because it doesn't feel like progress in the moment. It feels like I'm stopping everything and I'm looking at the numbers and I don't fully know what they mean and I don't like how I feel like I don't like how I feel when I don't know what they mean and so I'm just going to put those away and I'm going to go back and I'm going to get more leads and more leads will solve the business and then that's kind of like that's been the bulk of the experience that I've had with other agency owners is I don't really know the numbers, but it's not really important right now. It's later. Is that kind of what you've encountered?
Oh, totally. And I think like another thing that was in a way a tough pill for me to swallow and was kind of, I'll say this on a podcast and it's going to shoot some of the potential business is they're going to be like, no, I guess he said what I needed to hear and now I don't need to become a client. But I'd say 80% of the businesses I talk to, the financial advice that they need, that 80% of them who are like, yeah, I'm ready to, I do have a problem. I'm ready to systematize and like, I want this, but they're still looking for like some magic pill that they're expecting me to hand them. And the truth for most businesses that I talk to, most agency owners that I talk to is like, you need more revenue, you are overstaffed, and you need to be like a little less emotional in how you run your business. And you probably need to raise your prices. And like, if they do those four things, their profit's going to go up. And that's like, there's no like secret formula or like, tricks, or if I just bring in a seasoned CFO, they're going to show me the way. Like that is the way for, I
They're
think,
going to come
80%.
back to you with that feedback, and you just would have paid them a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not until the businesses get meaningfully larger, like 4, 5, 6 million in revenue, where their problems truly warrant a like professional VP of finance or like director of finance level brain to even think through these problems with them. Like, because at the end of the day, it's going to be like, you know how to cut costs, you just don't want to do it. you know how to not be or like underutilized with your team or overstaffed rather. You're just not willing to fire people, and you're frustrated that you can't bring in more revenue because for whatever reason you can't bring in more revenue. So like eventually the conversation whittles down to those key points.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. For people listening right now and you're taking notes, write those 4 things down right now, and then you can thank Eli later. It's funny because it's not even in any one specific wheelhouse. It's general business health. You don't need to be an agency. You could be a plumber. I don't know why if you're a plumber you're listening to this podcast, but you could be a plumber right now and look at what he said and apply that and come out on top. Like it's business health basics. This is essentially akin to if you are trying to become healthy, you need to eat less calories, you need to move more, you need to go to the gym, and you need to eat healthier food. Like those are the 4 things. Do them. You you could pay me. I could tell you that I'm a fitness trainer and you can pay me $10,000 for the year, and I'm just going to tell you those 4 things every single month until you finally freaking do them. Like that's kind of that's where we're at.
You look pretty strong, Sean. I wouldn't mind having you as a fitness buddy.
Hilarious. No, looks are deceiving. I'm very, very weak. Okay. What's been, if you can even say this, what's been the most surprising case that you've seen digging into an agency? Either they were way healthier than you thought, or they were way bigger for how unhealthy that they were. Like what's been the biggest, like, holy crap, how?
There was an agency we talked with. We ended up doing an audit of their whole everything from a profit perspective. And I could never quite get to the bottom of what was blocking them from going through the next phase of growth. But they had amazing retention, which stood out to me because I feel like most agencies struggle with retention a lot. And this business had incredible retention, but they weren't willing to run the business like a business.
Hmm.
It was just kind of like there was just a lot of emotion involved, which is I just didn't understand it. And maybe I'm like a cold asshole and that and like that's why I didn't get it. But it felt like such a good business as far as like these core fundamentals. And there was just like some sort of block that was preventing them from like if you've got retention figured out, that's like so much of the agency game is you're
Yep.
just on this hamster wheel of replacing clients and it's hard to fill an empty bucket with a hole in the bottom. So I don't know. I guess it's kind of fairly non-specific. I'm trying to be a little bit vague so I don't like put anybody on blast. But I'd say that kind of it's like agency founders' brains and heads kind of getting in the way of themselves almost.
Oh, 100%. I was just thinking as you're saying that, like, that is the classic, like, the founder identity trap of, like, still the business grows and gets bigger and more sophisticated and hairier as it goes, and you're still running it with this, like, really, really small mentality, and you're still the founder from, like, the version 1.0 of the agency, but the agency actually needs you to be version 3.0 now. And in my experience, and I don't know if maybe this is where your cold assholeness comes from, but I think that you need to experience some really, really tough times to actually understand the tough decisions that need to be made. And some agency owners honestly just haven't experienced that yet. So they haven't actually understood some of the tough calls that you need to make in order to make your agency thrive. And I mean, and if you can never experience that in your life, I mean, I hope you never experience that. But also, what I found is that growth usually comes on the other side of really difficult times. And so sometimes those difficult times are actually really important to go through.
Yeah, 1000%. And I think there's also this trend of a certain type of agency owner who uses their size as a defense mechanism to avoid getting to a place where there are those hard times. Like, think of the archetype of an agency owner who is purposefully always hovered around like between 4 and 8 employees. And they're like, anytime they hear someone like me or maybe yourself as well, like talking about the realities of business, and they're like, fuck you, you're an idiot. Like realities of business, you're just an asshole. Like, I pay all my people above market rate. And like we work 4-day weeks, not 5-day weeks. And we da 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 da. And they're just like super fucking cool doing that and making the same amount that they'd make in a job for someone else. And like, that's totally, if that's your stick, like if that's your shtick, that's fine. That's cool. But that's not like, that's barely a business, like,
It's true. It's a club. It's a club at that point.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
paid.
It's a social club.
It's paid friends.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I have to watch myself because sometimes I say things like even just then, that's barely a business. Like I shouldn't say shit like that because at the end of
Nope,
like
that's the clip. That's the clip right now.
everybody's got their goals and if that's somebody's life dream, then fuck yeah, like pursue it. But
Yeah,
I don't understand.
no, I like that. That's good. We were talking about some lots of really interesting things before we hit record. What are some of your hot takes, kind of pivoting from Profit Labs to just like agency world in general? What have you been thinking lately, Eli, that might ruffle some feathers? for more clips to piss people off.
Yeah, Sean. What we need to do is one of the next time we record together, we need to like do it at a bar where we're just taking like ripping shots of whiskey or something like that. Like then you get all the really, really provocative stuff out of me. No.
That would be
Um,
that's a hilarious micro format. Maybe we'll do that next year.
That'd be great. I feel like there are a few relationships out there in LinkedIn world. You're one of them where I'm like, I would genuinely just enjoy like getting drunk with this dude and I don't know, being rowdy.
We'll make it happen one day when your country is less scary.
Dude, you're telling me, yeah.
We're not getting
for sure.
political though. Back on the rails. Back on the rails.
Yeah, that's right. I'm trying to. Okay, yeah, hot takes. I've gone on quite the roller coaster myself, just around all the AI stuff going on. And how do I feel about it personally, and how do I feel about it professionally? And I went through a deep doomer phase for a while, and I feel like I'm on the other side of the doomer phase. I was texting with a buddy, and I asked him because he's like has this very methodical way of thinking about things. He's an engineer, and I was like, "Where are you on the maxi AI doomer scale?" And he said something that I really liked. He was like, "I don't think those exist on the same axis anymore. Like it's not the same." He's like, "You can be an AI maxi and an AI doomer at the same time, and they don't really conflict with each other ish." Or maybe it's muddy enough that you can say that. And I think that's where I'm at. Like, I fundamentally think that AI is really, really bad for humanity and society. And I fundamentally think that we're going to go through some incredibly dark, scary times as like a global populace. And I think it's going to break governments and it's going to just like blah, 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 doom, doom, doom. I'm right. Then I've got like, I know you have kids. I've got young kids. I'm like, I try my damnedest not to think about what the next 15, 20 years are going to be like on that front. So that there's that. We'll couch that part. On the work front, like I am both a maxi and a doomer. I think that a lot of agencies are totally fucked and their heads are in the sand, and like traditional agencies, if they're not figuring their shit out right now and they're not trying to somehow get on the wave or be adjacent to the wave of AI, they've got a couple years shelf life at best. Like they're just, and it's going to like, I'm in a couple of agency groups where I hop on like a monthly call, and it is mind boggling how naive people are because they just don't want to deal with it. They're like, it's just like, it's blown out of the water. And like, yeah, like they're going to come back to me when they realize AI can't actually do it. It's like, we've never seen anything change, evolve, and improve this quickly. Like,
Yep.
It's like head buried in the sand mentality. So anyway, I think that like that is something that a lot of agencies are going to have to face, and some more willing than others. And then on the maxi side of like, that's the doomer side. On the maxi side, I think we're like at a web 2.0 plus picks and shovels gold rush moment for agencies where everything is changing, and there's going to be this period of time where people can just print money helping other people figure out how to deal with the fact that everything's changing.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned off camera a story about some friends that you knew who had spun up a business, uh, serving some sort of specific piece of the tech that like 2 weeks later was no longer relevant. It's like that's going to continue happening, and there'll be continue to be opportunities to make money as an agency. It's just gonna. I don't think any of us know what that looks like, so we have to be willing to like be incredibly nimble, or sit more in the kind of seat where you sit, where it's like the fundamentals of running an agency are going to remain relatively fundamental. And so people are still going to need help from coaches and from like people who have run successful businesses to help them know how to steer the ship
Hmm.
as the earth rolls and rugs get pulled out from underneath them constantly.
Yeah,
Maybe even more now than ever.
it's funny. There's not going to be any less agencies or any less founders. It's just the head count is going to continually decrease, which also is really interesting because I'm really curious. We haven't seen this happen yet at all, but what is this going to do? What do you think this is going to do to pricing power? Are people going to continue? Are clients going to continually see the value in paying current pricing when people wise up to the fact that you can essentially run a simulated agency of 25 people with 5 people? Do you think that the pricing, do you think that the value being delivered still holds? Do you think that it's still perceived the same way? Do you think that the pricing still has the same power? I have no answer for this, but I'm curious what you think.
So we're going to tap into the doomer side of me for a second. Um, so I think the first step we're going to see is people are going to either going to be forced up or forced down. It's kind of the K, right? Like there's going to be a feeding frenzy and a race to the bottom in like the people targeting SMBs market. If you're an agency and your average fee per month is somewhere between $1,500 and $8,000 a month, like it's going to be an absolute slugfest because that's the easiest place for agency owners to enter the market. And it's the easiest place for people to compete on price because that's essentially like you're offering a commodity. And so it's going to be a race to the bottom. And then some people who are close enough to it now or are smart enough to kind of try to establish a foothold there now as they enter is the top of the market, right? It's like you're selling that je ne sais quoi. You're selling like, oh, you pay more because it's not like directly linked to anything that I can really tell you about. It's just because we're the best and you want to work with the best and you're willing to pay and you have money. So like, do you want to dance? And like, that's the best sales pitch to have. And I think that will remain protected for a very long time, just because that's how premium offerings work. But at some point, I think we will reach a place where I just don't even understand. Like if all of these corporations fire all of their people or a lot of their people, and then a lot of society doesn't have a job, like who are these corporations going to sell their shit to? And how are the corporations going to make money if they have no one to sell their shit to? Like in B2B land, just like, sure, we'll sell it to the other B2B businesses. And so the mega corporations will just become more mega, but it's like those mega corporations exist to support brands that support consumers who buy their shit. So it's like if people no longer feel like they have discretionary income to buy shoes and buy whatever else they buy, then those companies aren't going to need as much SaaS software from these giant mega corporations who are then going to not need as much servicing from it. So it's like it all kind of goes
It's
boom at some point.
it's like the classic like Looney Tunes trope where the character is sitting on a branch and he's sawing the branch that he's sitting on, and then eventually it's like like even to the point of like SaaS. Like you've now made it so that everyone can make their own SaaS and they don't need your SaaS anymore. Like
Yeah,
walk that down the road for me over the next 5 years. How does that play out?
exactly. I did hear an interesting thing, and I think this plays well for the next handful of years because I was having this conversation where it's like, okay, if everyone can build their own custom SaaS solution, if everybody is of the mind, once we're in our own little echo chamber, so we're probably ahead of the curve on some of this stuff and being aware of what's possible. But like, if everybody wisens up and they're like, oh, I don't need HubSpot. I'm just going to build my own CRM overnight, and it's going to be like more customized to me. Why then would anybody continue to build software? And someone much smarter than me told me, they're like, yeah, we're just going back to like the OG days of software now, where it's software as a service. Like that's why it's called SaaS. It's not just software, it's software as a service. And that's because back in the day, you had to like maintain, like there was, it was all custom software. And so it had to be like built to custom spec and maintained to custom spec. And it was like you had your own instance that was maintained by the company that built it for you and served on a whatever in your closet. And we're going back to those days where people are going to build their own custom shit, and then they're going to realize like, oh fuck, now I have to maintain this thing. And oh the shit, there's a bug, but I'm running my business. I don't have time to deal with this bug. So I think there will be like it's a cottage industry that still supports
That's a good
this
point.
in some capacity.
That is a very good point. We're coming close to time here. I wanna land this plane. So yes, there's doom and gloom. Yes, there's also sort of the utopian future. I think my one takeaway always, even with conversations about the future and AI and all that, it still comes back to, and you called it out earlier. It still comes back to there will always be a need to at least understand and spend time on the foundations, the fundamentals, managing your finances, having proper positioning, having an ICP that you actually service, delivering a good service as well. And I mean, no amount of duct tape together AI agents is going to ever change that. Even if we get to the point where there's just one founder at the top and they're orchestrating a bunch of agents, that just means that you as a founder, you need to have all of that stuff on lock. I mean, would you agree with that?
Totally. And then they still need to rent a friend. Like they still need a friend in the room with them to be like not lonely and sad. And so we could be agencies or just rent a friend maybe.
Rent a friend. I love it. Well, what's one thing that I should have asked you that I didn't?
Oh man, I feel like we covered some good stuff. I don't have anything for you there.
Here's one thing I haven't asked you yet in this episode, and I will. Who do you want to reach out to you for Profit Labs, and where can they find you?
Oh, I love that question, Sean. Thank you. If you're a founder and you are north of 1.5 million in revenue, and any of the frustrations or pain points that I talked about related to finance or business clarity resonated, like reach out to me. I know how to solve this. I've got a great team to solve it, and it costs less than doing it yourself.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks, Sean.